Michael, good morning. How are you, sir?
Good. Set off the fireworks, baby. The Bears are going to the divisional round, facing the Rams in the playoffs for the first time since the 1985 NFC Championship. I love it.
And on NBC, how about that?
Oh, boy.
If we could just get like maybe 20 more degrees, I don't know if holy water will do the trick. Can the Pope make it happen? Since I'm going to be out there on the sidelines, I would
Oh,
like it to be just a little warmer.
well, we love you, but if the Rams can't play in the cold, maybe the Pope can go the other way and lower it about 20 degrees.
Well, that's true. That's true. And we won't be out there for a full hour and a half. I think I can make it for however long our pregame show will be, and it'll probably be a half hour. I think I can make it. I think I can
Well,
just stand
Mike,
right next to the heater. You know those big heaters that
yeah.
say stay 4 feet away? I usually stand within 4 inches of those heaters.
Well, speaking of heat, Matt LaFleur on the hot seat in Green Bay. What do you think his future holds? It sounds like he may have avoided a firing, but where does that stand? And what are they considering? Are they keeping open the possibility of a John Harbaugh?
There's a lot of nuance to this one. I thought it was funny to hear Aaron Rodgers go off last night on those who would suggest that Matt LaFleur is on the hot seat. They didn't have the warmest of relationships, especially at the end of Rodgers' run in Green Bay. And this is all something that was created by new Packers president Ed Policy based upon things said and not said by him in the months prior to the start of the season. Here's the quick background. LaFleur is signed through 2026. Policy said just a few weeks before he took the job, Mark Murphy, age of 70, the bylaws require new president. So as Policy's getting ready to go in, he said that Matt LaFleur and, for that matter, GM Brian Gutekunst aren't going to get contract extensions until after the 2025 season. Policy also said he doesn't like lame duck situations, which set the stage for up or out after the 2025 season. So now here we are. And all we've gotten so far is someone within the organization leaking the idea that they're going to try to negotiate an extension. There hasn't been a statement that Matt LaFleur will be back. There hasn't been a deal yet. What if the Packers lowball LaFleur? What if LaFleur says, you know what, I'm good. I'll coach out the final year of my contract. What will Ed Policy do then? Will he say, well, you know what, I don't like lame duck arrangements, but you've given me no choice. All right, we'll see you in 2026. Or will he say, well, if that's how it's going to be, then let's just go our separate ways? I still think there are more dominoes to fall here. And it wouldn't necessarily be a firing per se. They reach an impasse in their contract negotiations and they make a mature decision to separate. And then, yeah, the job becomes the most desirable one out there, I would say, in the current cycle, unless and until Mike Tomlin would leave Pittsburgh, maybe to coach the Green Bay Packers. I'm getting ahead of myself as to how this could all play out. For now, the question is, will they get an extension done? And when you consider how the Packers collapsed on Saturday night, when you consider how LaFleur has said multiple times since then, that's the best job around. I mean, if the Packers want to play hardball with him, they really could offer him less, far less than what he would have been in position to make if he'd gone to the Super Bowl this year. And that's just business. And people don't want to hear it, but football is business. And if the Packers can save a couple million a year or maybe more in their negotiations now, when LaFleur isn't exactly in a position of strength, they may try to do it. So if they can't get a deal done, I don't know what happens next. And it may just be that we're inching towards something. Another possibility, too, is a team that's out there looking for a coach senses the possibility of a separation in Green Bay and calls up the Packers and says, let's work out a deal for Matt LaFleur. You can't rule that out either.
Yeah, it is a really interesting situation in large part because I thought he really mismanaged the clock in the second half of that game, Mike. When you go through and remind yourself, watch the game again from like the 3 minute point on, he just didn't. He was going. He was trying to score a touchdown. He was trying to get into the end zone from his own 21-yard line. All you got to do at that point is start taking a knee and then kick a field goal. I know the field goal kicker missed, but that was after a delay of game, which followed a burnt timeout. It's just, I really felt like his coaching at the end of that game was something worth examining, looking at, discussing. And I think that he's coming back. But I mean, if Ben Johnson's making $13 million a year, how much is he asking for? It might be beyond what they want to pay him.
And that's why I keep focusing on the possibility of an impasse and what happens next. And this whole trade thing, again, look, you have to look beyond the surface. You have to, it's the same as with a player. Teams that don't want to shop a player's contract will put enough out there that someone will call. And we can't rule that out. We know how this game goes. It's funny because every once in a while we'll get breathless reporting about these two teams have talked about this player. Well, they talk about everyone. That's what the personnel people do. They call all of their friends throughout the league. It's a very tight network of people who have known each other for years. They've worked together, they've crossed paths, and they may be relying upon each other to find jobs in the future. They know each other well, they talk to each other, and it's not out of the question for somebody who's looking for a coach to pick up the phone at the right time and talk to the Green Bay Packers about some sort of a possible deal that would result in Matt LaFleur becoming the new coach of that team. And it would happen like that. After all the searches have checked all the right boxes and matured to the point where they're in the process of making a decision, that's when you could see it. It doesn't happen often enough. Remember last year I mentioned the idea of the Bears trying to trade for Kyle Shanahan and people lost their minds. But the point is it doesn't happen as often as maybe it should. This may be a prime opportunity for it if they can't work out an extension. But I think they need to get to work on it now, because if they're not going to work out an extension from both sides, they need to be making plans for the future. If Ed Policy truly doesn't want a lame duck coach and Matt LaFleur says, sorry, I'm not taking your offer, I'll just finish this contract and go wherever I want in 2027, Ed Policy is really going to have a decision to make.
Back to the football, Mike. Last night, I thought the Houston Texans dominated because of a defense that looks like it could be the best unit in the playoffs. And then we still have yet to see the Seattle Seahawks play, who might challenge that idea by saying they have the best defense in the playoffs. If this continues to go in this direction, is America ready for a Seattle-Houston Super Bowl?
That may be where it's headed and where it becomes amazing. And I'm impressed by the ability of Texans coach DeMeco Ryans to avoid any of the sniping that you would expect when one side of the ball is so clearly carrying the other side of the ball. Now, the Texans offense last night had 408 yards, averaged 6.2 yards per play, twice what the Steelers averaged. The Steelers had 175 yards of offense, but CJ Stroud fumbled the ball 5 times. First time since 2007 that a quarterback has fumbled 5 times in a game and won, and only the second time since they started recording fumbles as individual player stats that somebody has fumbled 5 times, a quarterback's fumbled 5 times, and the team still won. Can they continue to win if CJ Stroud isn't getting it done? Maybe they can. But if it would come down to that, great defense versus great defense, it could be that the Seahawks offense, although their quarterback has a reputation for making big mistakes in big spots, it could just be who avoids the huge mistake that is fatal to the effort if we would see Seattle and Houston in the Super Bowl. And really, that Texans defense, they won that game last night because the Texans offense tried to give the Steelers opportunities to score early, and they had the turnovers, but they had 3 takeaways, and they scored 3 total points off of those 3 takeaways.
We've talked about this idea of players being retired in the NFL, and I mean the league retiring them. We heard Russell Wilson say that he's going to continue to play, and I kind of thought, really? Like, where? Because I don't know that anybody wants him. And you know Aaron Rodgers is probably done, or is he done?
It's funny, for a lot of players, and spoiler alert, it's been 27 years now, but it's the old sixth sense. Bruce Willis was dead all along. The player's the last one to figure out that the career is over. Everybody else knows, but the player refuses to accept it. I feel like Russell Wilson is in that mode, and I doubt that he's going to find anything for 2026. We'll see. If he finds anything, it's going to be second, third string at best. For Aaron Rodgers, I got the feeling when he talked about it last week that he already has an idea of what his alternative may be if Pittsburgh isn't. And if Mike Tomlin comes back, and who knows what Mike Tomlin's going to do at this point. 2 years ago, he walked off when he was asked a question after a playoff loss about his contract. Last night, he gave an answer saying he's not in that that mindset right now about his future. If he's back, I could see Rodgers being back. If Tomlin isn't back, Rodgers goes somewhere else. Where does he go? I don't know. Last year, there weren't many options for Aaron Rodgers. The Raiders didn't want him. At one point, he reached out to the Giants. They ended up going in a different direction. The Vikings were in the conversation. That didn't happen. If it hadn't been the Steelers in 2025, he may have been out of luck, which tells me if the Steelers aren't an option in 2025, he may have, or 2026, excuse me, he may not have another option.
Is Mike McDaniel more likely to be a head coach at somewhere like the Falcons or the Browns, or the offensive coordinator for the Lions, where I think he is interviewing today? Because if he were to go to Detroit with that offense and their weaponry, they become, I think, dangerous again.
Well, I think the Lions really would love to hire him as offensive coordinator, and I would be the first in line to demand a full year, off-season, training camp, preseason, regular season, postseason, hard knocks, focusing only on Dan Campbell and Mike McDaniel. Just those two, nobody else. Because those two personalities couldn't be any more different. But maybe they find a way to make it work. I think McDaniel has to be very careful about not taking a head coaching job as a way to stick it to the Dolphins. Because when you've been fired once as a head coach, that second move is critical, because if you fail again, you're done. You're done. Look at Adam Gase. He got fired by the Dolphins, went straight to the Jets. It was a disaster. We've never heard from him again. When Eric Mangini went from the Jets to the Browns without any hesitation in between, it didn't work out. I know he's in media now, and he was an assistant for a couple of years, but he's never been taken seriously as a potential head coach again. Your head coaching window most likely closes for good when you take that second job, especially if you take it right away and it doesn't work out. So McDaniel needs to be very careful. Don't go to a dysfunctional team like the Browns. Now, I know the Browns have asked very nicely that we not call them dysfunctional, which only guarantees that we will call them dysfunctional, because they are.
We had a weird conversation about Nick Sirianni. I might have been even off the air. Just kind of like, what does that guy do again? What is his strength? What is he, besides going after fans and arguing with wide receivers? And look, I'm obviously making a joke. Is there any danger of a guy who just won a Super Bowl being out? Are they just going to launch the coordinator and maybe trade the wide receiver? What is the plan in Philadelphia?
I have a ton of respect for Nick Sirianni as a coach. He has been to 2 Super Bowls. He's won 1. He has had incredible success in his 5 years as a head coach. But he does at times have the demeanor of a fan who won the contest to be head coach for a day. That's just how he comes off. And I think that we saw this 2 years ago when the Eagles, a year after going to the Super Bowl, having a double-digit lead in the second half against the Chiefs and losing, they were 10-1. They fell apart down the stretch. They got beat by the Buccaneers 32-9 in the wild card game. There's that shot of Jeffrey Lurie, the owner of the Eagles, sitting in the suite, and like it was this facial expression that humanity has never seen before to convey whatever he was feeling. We had a couple of days where we're like, are they gonna fire Sirianni and try to hire Bill Belichick? Like there's that moment in time where we're wondering, are the Cowboys or the Eagles or both going to make a run at Bill Belichick? And the Cowboys issued the statement, Mike McCarthy will be back, because they got blown out unexpectedly by the Packers in the playoffs that year. The Eagles never said anything. They just kept going. But what Nick Sirianni had to do, he had to have a plan for offensive and defensive coordinator. And he did, and it worked. It worked too well because Kellen Moore got hired by the Saints. So now this year's offensive coordinator didn't work. So what do you do this time? It would be a stunner of all stunners if Jeffrey Lurie would decide to move on from Nick Sirianni. But I know there's Eagles fans out there that are like, why don't we go get John Harbaugh? You know, the Giants, I think, are making a serious run at Harbaugh. Maybe the Eagles have to think, should we bring John home? Is this the right time to do this? Is he the guy we need to get this thing under control? So I think it would be crazy if it happens, but we've seen crazy happen all the time in the NFL.
Speaking of crazy, so Indiana has completed the biggest turnaround, I think, in college football history. Curt Cignetti is 62 years old. The Raiders have the number 1 pick. There has been somewhat speculation, but it did come up last week. I think maybe Rich Eisen broached it. Somebody else followed up. Is Curt Cignetti somebody that would be tempted by the NFL in your mind, or are teams looking at him as somebody they'd consider?
We wrote something about it a couple of weeks ago. The buyout's $15 million, which is peanuts. I mean, I know a lot of owners are cheap, but if you truly are trying to win a Super Bowl and you're not just saying that to keep the season ticket renewals at the highest possible rate, make as much money as you can, if you truly believe it, you have to be considering what Curt Cignetti has done in a short period of time at Indiana and what he could do in the NFL. The counter to that is, hey, and I don't like that the NFL has a quiet but very real ageism streak to it. Right. He is in his 60s. You know, I've had somebody say recently, hey, it's a young man's game. It's like, that's fine, but don't say that out loud anywhere. You're going to get yourself sued. Because you have protection between the age of 40 and 75. There is federal protection, and in most states there's protection as well, and that shouldn't be part of the decision. But we see teams skew young all the time because they view it as a young man's game. That would work against Cignetti. I think you have to at least look. You have to at least explore. And from Cignetti's standpoint, he's still got one more game to play. And we know how he is. He's focused. He's got the blinders on. But once we get through next Monday, I'll be watching. And the other thing to keep in mind, I mentioned this on the pregame show on Sunday night, which I doubt anyone was watching because the 49ers-Eagles was still being played at the time. But one of the teams looking for a head coach, one of the people with one of those teams said that there could be multiple coaches from top programs at the college level looking to jump to the NFL because of NIL, because of transfer portal. Now, there has to be landing spots. There has to be mutual interest. And you have to be very discreet when you're a college coach, especially when the portal's still open, because if word gets out, you're thinking about leaving, they're going to use it against you when you go out and try to get this guy, this guy, this guy. But there could be multiple college coaches that are trying to plot a path to the NFL. Whether or not the paths are there remains to be seen. Whether or not Cignetti is one of them also remains to be seen.
Great stuff, Mike. Let us know if you need us to pick you up at O'Hare. We'd be happy to get out there.
Oh, Bobby V's already got me covered. I'm sure.
Oh, is that right? Okay. Well, someone.
And that old Audi that he drives around, and it won't be snowing. It won't be snowing.
Sure.
So I think we'll. Is it going to snow Saturday?
Well,
I think we're good.
You never know.
It's Chicago.
There's some possibility.
Can't wait, look, I know it's going to be cold, but the moment that game was locked in, because we had no idea who the NFL was going to send where. 4 different networks in play. We didn't find out until last night when they announced it after the game. I had my fingers and toes crossed to come to Chicago for the Bears-Rams game. So I can't wait to come back to Chicago. I love Chicago. It's like New York City and Pittsburgh had a baby, and people love football there, and they're finally getting the team that they've deserved for years.
Do you think they win Sunday?
I don't know. It's not going to be easy because the Rams are relentless, but how can you ever rule out the Bears? At a certain point, this magic isn't just a coincidence. And the one thing, I know you got to go, but the one thing that I loved from Ben Johnson after the game on Saturday night, the fact that he showed Super Bowl 51 in training camp to his team, and that he's got a player from each team, the Falcons and the Patriots. And let's believe that we can do this.
Right.
And they didn't do 28-3, but they did 21-3. So that's going to be a case study for some coach in the future. They're going to show him the Bears-Packers game to get the players to believe.
He coached them to win that game. That's basically what he told us. Crazy.
Great stuff, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.